Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Now I'm joined with Bill Heinrich, who is a fellow full-time RVer, and I always love connecting with them, and also a fellow author. And he's written 2 books so far called The 7 Levels of Truth and Clarity Has No Story. Bill, thanks for joining me today.
Dan, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the conversation. Those watching on video, you can see Bill is actually in his RV. I'm not. We're back in Pennsylvania at the niece and nephew's house, which kind of turns into a homestead when we get back here. But it's always great to connect with other full timers and people who are like minded. And you've got a lot of really cool things going on. So excited to have you on the show. But before we get started, just introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Bill today?
Bill today is someone who has spent 30 years researching how to empower others so that they can go empower others. And that's my whole focus in life is assisting people with more clarity so they can get away from the suffering. And I love the many little people doing many little things because that's just so apropos to what I teach. It fits right in perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, you've kind of been on this journey of self-discovery or whatever you want to call it for
Mm-hmm.
many, which, obviously a little bit before we started full timing, must have led you to that lifestyle as well. Because I tell people all the time, like if you're truly looking for freedom and a lifestyle of freedom, sell all your crap and buy an RV. But I also understand that's not for everybody. But you know, let's go back to the beginning before we start talking about the RV stuff. But what was it that started you, on that journey? Because you were very successful by society's standards,
I had
prior
a
to
lot of
what you say walking
yeah,
away from life.
I had a lot of successes and I had a lot of failures. I owned my first business, an office products business, when I was 25 years old, and built that up, grew it 600 or 700%, and then sold it. I lived on the East Coast and sold it, moved out west, and just ups and downs. My life was really out of control because I didn't understand life. Life didn't make sense to me. So I was in this very, I call it a stark mode of survival, doing whatever I could to be happy, which I really wasn't, although on the outside it appeared that way. And it just, after decades of that in my 40s, it got to the point where I finally cracked and literally walked away from my life. And went on to change everything but my name. Uh, and it's that process is still continuing today. I'm always in the process of change. Um, what I learned is I was living outside myself, and there was nothing inside me.
Yeah.
I was wrapped up in survival. I was wrapped up in seeking other people's approval. I was wrapped up uh, in getting the wolves away from the door. All those, excuse me, all those other things. And when it started cracking open, I had nothing inside me to rely on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's so important. I think, a couple things I want to dive a little deeper in. I mean, we are always in a constant, state of change. As much as we as human beings want to resist that, we can't. We like the status
That
quo,
is a fact.
like to keep things the same. But whether we're changing with it or whether we're resisting it or not, it's changing. We're changing. Everything around us is changing. So, was there anything in particular during that time in your life that was, almost like that aha moment of, all right, I've got to make this change, for me to be able to actually survive and thrive?
What actually I mean, so many things. It was chaos. Okay. Um, and Where your energy goes, you go. Where your attention goes, you go. And like you said, everything's in a constant state of change, and it's always in a constant state of expansion. So the misery just grew and grew and grew. And I had an outburst of anger that I was in a relationship with a woman at her son, like it was headed towards rage. And this voice, I just had this voice came in my head and said, Bill, this is not you. I don't know. I don't even remember. All I know is it was like a cold bucket of ice water poured over me. And I went upstairs and sat for a few minutes and said, I got to go find out why I'm so miserable. And off I went. Um,
Well, I love that. I love that. One of the other things you mentioned in the beginning was that you were very successful, but you also had a lot of failure in your life as well.
oh, yeah.
And I think many times, people will look at successful people and forget that every successful person probably had a lot of failure that they dealt with to get there. Like I think I'm a true believer of the fact that failure is a part of success, and
I call it failing forward.
I love it. And I was before we started traveling, I was a baseball coach for 30 years, and you know I always taught life lessons through the game more so than just a winning philosophy, winning at all cost philosophy. And the game of baseball is one of those things that just wraps up failure, and really embraces it. And trying to teach the kids that I'd coached that lesson of, look, failure is part of the game, it's part of life. Get used to it, overcome it, and like you said, fail forward. um, talk to me a little bit about that philosophy of failing forward and not getting too caught up in those failures when they happen.
Well, it's not failing, number one. When you're in, when you're living in your physical life and you're measuring everything on the results and judging everything in your life, that it's failure. However, when you're being you and understanding that every experience in life gives us more clarity. And it's with that clarity that we gain more awareness. And it's that awareness that gives us more options to create the life of our dreams. So failing is fantastic, so to speak, because it means you're doing something new. Let's start there. Okay. If it looks familiar, you've done it before.
Right.
In life, you know, life is just, man, life is just a search for clarity. It's just a search for clarity. And we learn that in RVing because it's all about planning and clarity. If you don't have it, you don't start the engine, man. But it is, you look at what the rest of your plans are for today, you're looking for more clarity. You're looking for what's going on next week. We're all, people don't look at it that way. What they're looking at is they're in a hunt for an expectation. They're after something in the physical rather than just enjoying the experience. And if you're going to make an investment in a startup company or something like that, you want to be talking to somebody that's failed before.
Right.
Because you've got to know what the pitfalls are to avoid them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had when you mentioned about it's not actually failing, like I had a friend of mine, another, fellow coach, who said, look, either we're winning or we're learning. No, it's not losing, we're
Mm-hmm.
learning. And I think that's a great way to approach life. When you do, come across a stumbling block, what can you learn from it at that time? And I don't think it's truly a failure because you don't learn something from
And,
the incident.
and as a coach, I can tell right now that you your idea of winning was the difference in Timmy on first base at the end of the season and in Jimmy in the outfield and how their attitudes changed and the the life lessons that you taught them. That's what created a winning season for you, I'm sure. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny, a lot of people when I talk to them about my philosophy that it was about teaching life lessons, like they automatically think that, oh, well, you know, you probably weren't, successful wins and losses in that case. It's like, no, our teams are very successful. Like we won a lot of games. Every time we went out there, we were competing to win, but that wasn't the end goal. It was the process. It was going through that process. And
It's
if we did
all
all those little things right leading up to that process, the wins and losses on the field would take care of themselves. And that was really the
mm-hmm.
philosophy that I took. And again, it's something that can be carried over into life so easily,
it's
really.
it's actually right down the center line of the blueprint for living your life purpose.
Yep.
And that is being connected moment by moment of the experience of bringing your clarity into the physical.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt about it. So
and how we show up to it.
yeah. Yeah. I love
And
that.
if you were about winning and losing, your whole emphasis would have been more on the technical baseball piece and I got new kids coming next year. It doesn't matter. Right.
And I'll tell you what, one of the greatest blessings that, my wife and I have had since we've been traveling full time is being able to reconnect with a lot of my players that, are now literally scattered, throughout,
Oh, nice.
and being able to see those seeds that I had planted that are now blooming, and they're, young men and women who are now coming into their own and doing their own, good work in other people's lives as well. So that's been an incredible blessing to be able to see that, because you don't always get a chance to see those seeds that you planted come to bloom. And again, even with that, as you're planting those life lessons and doing that, you can't be in it. Um, there's going to be some seeds that you plant that are going to bloom that you're not going to see bloom, and you just have to keep faith in the process, that even if you don't see the result of it, that the work you're doing was worth it, and what you were doing
Oh,
planting.
it's germinating. It's still in there. In fact, they may actually be due to lessons they're here to learn, moving, running their life in resistance to it, and having lost control of their life that way. But I just love where you're coming from coaching, Dan. I ran into a coach and if any coaches are listening, I want you to really hear this. At a seminar a few years ago, she was a NCAA championship coach in Division II, I think, was a 2 or 3 time Olympic athlete. Um, Quite amazing credentials. And when I met her, she introduced herself as coach. And I said, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" She said, "Coach." I said, "Well, yeah, you're a coach, right?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, but what's your name?" And she had this resistance because she was hiding behind being a coach and what she had accomplished. And boy, did I get in her face, right? And so, oddly enough, by the end of the weekend, she hired me. After she heard me speak, she hired me. And I don't think she worked with me for 3 months, but her whole message has changed. And it's so much in alignment with what you're speaking and the kids that you've coached. What a gift you were to them. You know, your purpose has nothing to do with the incredible information you gave them. That's where you let go. You just like you did it. And oh, what a gift, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt about it, no doubt about it. So, let's talk a little bit about, you too are a coach, not necessarily a sports coach, obviously, but really someone who's there to coach other people to really, understand how to, fulfill their lives and, you know,
How to live
find
their
what,
life purpose.
yeah. So, how did that come about? That, once you went through that transformation of your own, what was it in you that said, you know what, I can't just keep this to myself. I got to help other people discover what I've helped
What
as
a
well.
great question. It is a long process. I started, it was almost 30 years ago. And, the resistance and just sorting it out on my own and living my own life. But what I found as I moved along and as I let go of the physical more and more and focus more on who I'm being and how I'm showing up, right? So that I can be of benefit to all involved, uh, for whatever the outcome is and whatever situation I'm in is where I've gotten to. But the turning point was when I was at a seminar. I've done a lot of work in metaphysics because we're going to talk about energy. You said uh, we're in a constant state of change. It's so true. The universe is in a constant organic state of change. Like attracts like, and it's energy that creates that attraction. And I was at a seminar, a soul reclamation seminar, a friend of mine was putting on in Scottsdale, Arizona. At the beginning of it, she started talking about her divine gifts. And then the rest of the seminar off, she went into other things. Something clicked when she talked about that. And I knew all about the divine gifts, about this energy that flows through us. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is I knew all about it in that moment. Next day, the person I was going to the seminar with, we were driving over. I was talking about him in the morning, and she said, "Where are you getting this information? Nobody spoke about that." I said, "Well, it's like I just knew." So the energies, we have chakras in our body, and there's energies that flow through the 7 chakras. These energies make up who we really are. We all have the same energy, but we have them different proportions of them. And the energy starting with that from the crown going down to the root, to the groin, or let me go from the root chakra up, is divine compassion, divine creation, divine order, divine healing, divine authentic self-expression, divine truth, and divine power. We have all these energies, every one of us, but we have them in different proportions. When this energy flows through us, when you don't understand what it is, it comes out in a negative way. And this is what's creating a lot of the disruption and chaos in people's lives, because we're born with life lessons. There's 38 different life lesson paths. Everybody has one. So it means we have big blind spots. The combination of the two put us in a place of survival and a perspective in life that isn't accurate because of the blind spots. So this was a crowning achievement, because it was like, if people understand this energy, then they're going to truly know who they are authentically. So I then found a way to build it into coaching. And it took me a little over a year to figure out how to do that, put the pieces so it would stick when I gave people this information. I've been doing it for 15 years, changes people's lives instantly. It's amazing what happens. I know you do volunteer work, and I know what the answer is going to be when I ask you this question about how it feels to do that work.
Yeah, it's incredible, and that's something that, giving back and being a volunteer is something that was instilled in me as a very young person. My mom was
Mm-hmm.
very in the community. My dad was involved in a different way because he didn't have as much time because he drove truck, but he was
Mm-hmm.
always giving financially. So, what's amazing is when you go into any type of situation like that, volunteering, and you start going in as the fact that you're the giver, you're giving of yourself to accomplish a goal for this organization, this person, whatever the case is. But in the end, when you're finished, you find that you're probably more fulfilled than what the quote unquote
No
receiver,
question.
so
No
the giver
question.
becomes the receiver in that process. It's totally
It
reciprocal.
isn't it incredible?
It is. It is.
And the thing I found, Dan, the mistake that most people make, okay, is they don't know how to give.
Yep.
They give with an expectation. They give with a string attached. And that is called taking. That's not called giving.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
not giving. When you give to have your name on a plaque and all these other things, okay, when you give for physical recognition, this is called taking.
Yep.
Giving is giving unconditionally, regardless of what the outcome is, and you just walk away from it.
Yep.
You've given with love. It's over. It doesn't matter. And for myself, I've only been involved in giving projects for about the last 18 years, and in the background, like coached a farmer with grows noni over in Hawaii. We exploded his business open. One of the most powerful healing fruits in the world. And it's helping so many people live a better life. It's all about helping people live with less suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Love that. Bill, what was it that inspired you to write your books, to put some of this, what you were teaching and coaching people with, and put it, on paper? Because again, as a fellow author, I love to hear, the story of what it was that inspired you to, want to put that to paper.
Clarity Has No Story was written on a whim, so to speak. It just happened, and I wrote it, and I'm going to give everybody a link at the end to download a free copy of it. The 7 levels of truth, 7 divine gifts. There's each of these energies has a truth that goes with them. And it took me 5 years to write that book, to break it, get it down to the best I could, dummy it down to where people could understand it. And it's not where I want it. This information that I share is so powerful. I don't care what's going on in anyone's life. I can show them how to resolve it so fast, because when you understand the energy piece of it, which I know that you clearly understand, Dan, it's a game changer. What it means is it doesn't really matter what happens in the physical. What matters is how you show up to it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Love that so much. And then what, again, just when I have this common ground with somebody, I want to hear what it was that inspired them as well. So, um, as I mentioned, you're also a full-time RVer. We talked about that very briefly, but what what was it that made you want to do that? Were you a camper prior to?
No,
Um,
no, 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 no,
Neither
no,
were
no,
we, so I love that. So, what
no,
was it
no.
that made you decide to do it?
I was in Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and was flying back to the mainland a lot, like every month, right? So I finally said, okay, I'm going to get off the island and come back. And I bought a place just quickly in Hawaii when I was there speaking in Las Vegas. I'm sorry. And I knew the prices were going to go up and all the things were going there. So I got moved over there, but didn't like it at all. And was sitting there, it's like, where do I want to live? And I couldn't pick a place. And I've been all around the country. I just couldn't. But maybe I'll get an RV. And then it's like, okay, how the hell am I going to do that? Now that was in January of 2019, and I manifested it, literally manifested it. Uh, I wanted it. My intention was to have it completed by Thanksgiving, and it got completed early October. And the RV just showed it was crazy. Okay, I mean and in fact, when I stepped into it, I stepped up a step and looked and said, "Son of a bee," because I knew the universe had just delivered, and I had to take action on it. Like my game was over, right? Like I couldn't. Everything that was in my manifestation was in that RV.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
so. Now that you've been doing it for going on 4 years, as you get into the fall here, any exit plans, or are you just riding it out as long as you
You
can?
know, it's gone by pretty fast, Dan. In fact, I'm very surprised at how fast it's gone by.
I can relate to that.
And there's still things I want to see and
Yep.
places I want to go.
Yep.
So no exit plan, no plan. I'll be in Vermont for the summer and I'll do my planning when I'm there for the next winter, but I go to where it's warm in the winter.
Right.
Um, right now I'm in Albuquerque. And it's interesting. Like I've got to go across. I'm going up to Vermont. I'm going to go over through Memphis, not up that way, Knoxville, and so on. But I'm watching the weather with all the tornadoes they've had and planning my trip, and it's so
Yeah.
it's interesting. You know, it's really fascinating. You really get to see the country.
Yeah. And there's just so much, we talked about this before we started recording. I mean, there's so much to see and so many incredible people out there. I mean, that's, in addition to the beautiful places, like I tell people all the time, the people we've met. And if you just take the time to sit down and have a conversation with someone who may not necessarily share your perspective, you're going to find
Mm-hmm.
out real quick that you probably have a lot more in common with that person than what society says you should. And I just
Well,
love it. And we don't have an exit plan either. We're kind of the same way. There's too much more for us to see. There's more people we know we want to meet, even though we don't know who they are. you know,
you know,
so
I
there's no exit plan.
I want to go back to something you just said. Okay, when you said, when you meet people and you get a chance to sit down, find out who they are, you find out that we're pretty much all in common, although we're all so different.
Yep.
And this is where those seven energies I mentioned come in. Because when you take the time to connect with someone, those energies connect between you.
Amen.
It, and it's not about what you think or said, it's about the energy behind it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can be there present and actually have reverence for the fact that we're all different. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I love that. I love that. Bill, man, we could just go on and on, I'm sure. I always got to be, cognizant of the time. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to bring up that you think would be beneficial to our listeners?
You're different and your energy. You're a human being. You're not a human doing.
Yeah.
And really embrace the difference in all of us. Everybody's we're all on the same path. We're just in a different place.
Yep. Yep. I love that. I love that. Bill, how can people find you on the internet if they want to reach out for any of your services, your books? Where can they find you out on the web?
Okay, let's start. If anyone wants to do a 20-minute clarity session with me, you can go to speaktobill.com, speaktobill.com, and you can book a 20-minute clarity session. Please only book that session if you're really serious about changing your life, because you're going to find out that I move very fast. And if you're not real serious, I'm limited to what I can do because I could tell you things that would mess your life up, and I won't do that because I can change a person's life. I show how to change very fast. Speaktobill.com. My website is True Life Purpose Now. True Life Purpose Now. A free book. Clarity Has No Story. You may download that at my free book, myfreebook.me. M-E. It's free and it's about me. It's pretty good. Myfreebook.me. Clarity Has No Story. And then the 7 Levels of Truth is available on Amazon. 7 Levels of Truth, A Direct Path to Your Life Purpose. Or if you would like a signed copy mailed free, you can go to my website and order one, and I will sign it for you.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. And we'll put all those links in the show notes as well, so that people can reach out and connect with you. And I certainly hope they do. So that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast, which we've mentioned, different times throughout the the show here is, many little people in many little places, which comes from the opening lyrics of the Michael Franti song Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. So what's one of the little things that Bill does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place?
One of the basic rules in transformation is that the world is a mirror. Everything you see in the world is a reflection of you. Everybody looks at that more from the negative side because it gives them guidance on what to change. But the thing that I focus on is to be an energy that somebody will see and give them a new reflection of who they truly are.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true, man, because if you're looking for the good in people, you're going to find the good in people. If you're looking for the bad in people, the bad in things, you're going to find the bad. So, the fact that we are all mirrors and we see what we're looking for, that is so true. And it just goes back to manifestation and, positive thinking, all that sort of stuff just wrapped up in one. So I love that answer.
Remember that what you judge, you are.
Amen to that too. Absolutely. Oh man, Bill, this is a great conversation. I'm so glad we got to connect. I hope that someday we'll be able to find our place, find our houses in the same area. Some point again, that's the beauty of having
going east and west on I-10.
The beauty of having a house on wheels is that no matter where you're at, you're home. And I love that when you said about you didn't know where you wanted to settle down on, so you can just make everywhere home. Someday you can have a beachfront property. Sometimes you have a mountaintop property. It's all where you want to be. So I love that for sure.
I've stopped. I don't drive fast anymore since I've had my RV. I'm not in a hurry. I'm already home.
Always home, even if it's a Cracker Barrel parking lot. I say to people, I'm home in a Cracker Barrel parking lot. So I love that, and I truly do hope that we can connect in person at some point for sure. And for folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com. While you're there, pick up a copy of one of my books. And again, links for Bill's stuff will be in the show notes. So go there and pick up some of his stuff as well. Bill, again, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciated this conversation.
Dan, the pleasure has been all mine. I love who you are and look forward to connecting with you again.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that.